So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector. And today I have a member from the band, Burndy. So, they're a trio and they play industrial noise type of rock, alternative stuff. And they're putting out a self titled debut record out on May the 2nd. And I have their lead singer, and she plays ukulele, electric ukulele. I have Megan here with me. So, Megan, how are you today?
Doing great today. I'm here in Chicago and it's actually starting to get warm out. So I'm doing really well. Thanks.
Yeah, I haven't. I've been to Chicago like on a pit stop on an airplane, but I haven't experienced Chicago. But I have a friend called Señorita Sabrosura who lives in Chicago, and she just sent me today the Riot Fest like lineup for this year, and
Yes, they just announced that this morning.
I'm like, well, I'm tempted to go now. Yeah, like that would be a cool thing to go. So I'm thinking about it. So I listened to the album and it says industrial, but I got reminded of like different type of bands and like it's a mixture of Joy Division. I thought of like the Breeders, but industrial, and
Oh,
another name that kept popping up was L7.
oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, because well, they were like alternative. They had like a different side of things and kind of industrial. So tell me a little bit about how because I was reading the bio that you put like an ad that you were looking for girls to play like some industrial, like noisy rock. So tell me a little bit about how the band was formed.
Yeah, I've been in bands over the years and I never really kind of had one that I was my concept from the very beginning. So I thought about it and I posted on Facebook to any of my friends, girlfriends in Chicago who played any instruments, who had any interest in being in any kind of like sort of difficult, weird, interesting music project. I worded it differently, but that's the gist, right? And so my friend Sally was one of the first people to respond, and she said, "How about like death metal bassoon?" And I was like, "Yes, yes." And so we went through various lineups of different instruments. Another friend plays the theremin, so she was kind of interested at first, and um, had a guitarist for a while. We were sort of just trying to figure out. I play a few things, so I was like, "Oh, I'll play whatever we need." I started playing bass when we had the guitarist, and then when she it didn't work out with her timing, like then I was like, well, I play the ukulele. I don't play guitar. So then we started with that and the bassoon and a bass player, and it just really started to come together. We never could find a drummer, so we took the route that so many bands do sometimes, and so we have backing tracks. We use a drum machine. But yeah, it all just kind of came together.
Yeah, I didn't actually know there was an electric ukulele.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's hanging behind me.
I did. Yeah, I told my daughter because my daughter has a pink ukulele.
Nice.
Uh, she doesn't know how to play it, but but maybe one.
Tell her to
one
start a band. She can open for us. But it's
yeah,
all it's all very punk rock.
still 7 years old. There's time for her. But I told her I'm interviewing a band, and she plays an ukulele, and she's like, "Ooh!" So she was interested because you play the ukulele. So yeah, it's a different type of sound. But there's some interesting, like for example, the album starts. I can't remember the name of the song because it's a letter, but it's like an instrumental track.
Hmm. Yeah.
The the record is 9 tracks, and there's one single right now.
Yes.
It's uh, the
Surface.
the Surface. Yeah, that's the single that you have right now, which is a cool single. So you because I mentioned some names, but I'm curious to find out like which like for you at least musically like which musical Like, which influence got you into playing this type of music?
I if I have to boil it down to one, it's I think swans probably, even though we don't sound like swans at all. But they really, I've been a fan of them since the beginning of their career. Well, I mean, since I found them. But I love all of their different styles. They've done so many different, they're heavy pounding early stuff. They had light stuff when Jarbo was in the band. Now they're doing something kind of completely different. So their versatility had a huge effect on me and creating music, but just other thing, I've pulled all of my influences into this band, just really early industrial stuff, Coil, Throbbing Gristle, Einstürzende Neubauten, Joy Division, obviously, even like, Killing Joke, like just whatever, somehow whatever I like, and Big Black and here has gone into this band. I love hearing you tell me what bands it reminds you of, because everyone has a different answer to that, which at first I thought was terrible. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, maybe it's great that we're hard to categorize a little bit. You can't put your finger on describing us completely, which I think might be good.
Yeah, well, I don't. I have a lot of bands that electric ukulele, so that's pretty like different. But yeah, I heard the different influences, and that first band that you mentioned that you I forgot the name right now.
Swans?
Pons, yeah, I know
Swans.
my friend
Yeah.
who lives in Chicago has seen them live, and she told me it's one of the loudest concerts she's ever been to.
Yes. Yeah, I think Swans and maybe My Bloody Valentine are up at the up at the top. Oh, and there was a band Jucifer. Do you know Jucifer?
I don't know that one.
Oh, Jucifer is a duo. I don't know if they're still together playing, but it was just a duo, and a man and a woman, but they were so loud that it was it's like that physical force when you're watching the music. And Swans has always been like that. And My Bloody Valentine, of course, is known for their lot. I don't know how they can still hear, actually.
Hopefully, they use earplugs. Also, my friend also told me that surprisingly, she saw Slow Dive, and they were loud.
Oh, that is surprising.
Yeah, I'm like, Slow Dive, really? I wouldn't think they were that loud, but apparently they were loud. Live, but that's proof that you don't need to have like 9 people in a band to be loud.
No, you do not. You can be loud all by yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, so the band, the name Burndy, what's the? Is there a story behind that band name?
There is. Uh, so occasionally I bake cookies with a friend of mine. And we just started using the word Burndy to describe the ones that were burnt around the edges a little bit. So we, be like, oh, those are a little burnedy. We'll put those over here. And right around the time we were together baking, and we said it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? That would be the perfect name for the band, because we're, a little crispy around the edges, a little burnt on the sides, and so that became our name.
That, that's a cool story. That from baking cookies came with that. Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, burned, and it's like it's a little bit burned, but not burned completely. So yeah, that's a cool story. So the single that you have, Surface, tell me a little bit about what you talk about in that song, what it means to you.
Yeah, so this song is kind of about God, I think we all have the voice of doubt in our head sometimes, right? And this is not only sort of a personifying that voice, as you can never forget it and it goes around and around, but also sort of that very real thing where somebody says something to you and you just never forget it, and it's usually bad. You never remember the good things. And so it's kind of just that circular thing where it goes through your head and you never forget it. And it's always trying to hold you down or stop you from doing something, or, preventing you from going after what you want. And so this song is kind of about like, no, you're going to keep fighting. You're going to keep going, even though that voice is still there and you're never going to forget it. Just kind of like breaking through that barrier that you're really putting on yourself, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's relatable, and anyone can relate to having that like voice in your head of self-doubt. Sometimes I say you're your own worst critic.
I think we are. I think we are. Like, it's always easiest to, yeah, you're meaner to yourself than you ever would be to any of your friends. Like,
That's
it's terrible.
sad but true. So listening to this record, I know there's a lot of themes that of like female empowerment. For example, I wrote some of the like the last song, "Refuse." I love it when you
Ah,
stop telling me to fucking smile. Almost the end of the record.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Oh my gosh. Well, that song, things in America are politically interesting right now, as you know. And so that song kind of came about because of how everything was kind of going here. Um, we we do it at the end of every show. Now that is our last song. Um, and it was sort of like that, and also this just like, oh my gosh, stop telling me to do anything. Stop telling stop telling me what I can do and what I can't do. And of course, the ever present, you're walking down the street thinking about something, and somebody's like, oh, you should smile.
Yeah. You know what? That doesn't happen here in Puerto Rico.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, I would be afraid to say that. Though. She'll be like, "Motherfucker, what?"
Right?
No, no, no. You don't say that to Hispanic women.
Oh, good, good. We all need to learn that lesson from them. Like,
Yeah, no, no. But yeah, I don't know why. Like you would tell that to a random stranger you don't fucking know. What if they had like a super bad day? Like, just mind your own business.
yes. Yes, exactly. And there you go. That's what that song is about.
Yeah,
But yeah, totally.
it's a cool way to end some, but it can be related to other stuff because sometimes there's people that love to give advice. For example, when I first became a father, everyone gives you advice. This is what you have to do. I'm like, and I think I took everything in, and in my mind I said I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and being in a band is the same way. Like there are so many people who are just like, "Oh, you know what you could do. You know what you should do." And I'm just like, "You know what I'm going to do? Whatever the fuck I want. Whatever we as a band want to do is what the fuck we're going to do." But thanks.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, well, I'm a music reviewer, so sometimes I critique stuff that I don't like, but I'm not saying like you should change that.
Yeah, critiquing and saying like, "You know what you should do." And I've had people who have actually done that about this band. "Oh, you know what you should do." And I'm like, tell me, oh please. you know uh but giving an opinion about things and telling someone what they should change are very different things.
Unless it's Rick Rubin.
Okay, now if he had said that, I would probably listen a little harder.
Yeah, but if Rubin, no. To tell you
Until
something.
he calls me, I'm not.
Yes, but yeah, I thought that was like a good like a good way uh, song. I also another song that stood out to me was "Come On In," which is the second
Oh,
on the record, and I like it. That one, like the vocals are softer. That's why it reminded me of like a band like the Breeders at some point, but more industrial. So "Come On In." It's it's funny because you're like inviting them in, but then you're saying, "But I set the rules."
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that song has a story behind it that like happened. So it's about an ex-boyfriend many,
Or
many years ago. Yes. And my thought about it was like, what if I just turn this around and I'm like, yeah, things are great, things are cool, like come on in. And really it's like, come on in, because now, you're in trouble. Like, I'm gonna turn, I don't want to say like, come on in, because I'm gonna kill you now. But it's kind of that idea, like, this was really bad and these things happen. But hey, it's fine. Come on in. Like, yeah. So yeah, but that one is a good one. That's the very first song we ever wrote. Um, and actually we don't do it live anymore because we've been playing it for so long. But I like that one because of all the different, it has so many different layers in that song with the vocals and the instruments and the sounds. And it just has that really beautiful build to it. Like it really, and it has a little bit of a different sound than a lot of our other stuff.
Plus, it has that story. Like, I'm wondering, does he know? Does he know there's a song about him?
I don't know.
Maybe if he watches this, he'll be like,
He'll
because
be like,
that's always interesting. Like when Alanis Morissette wrote "You Oughta Know," and
right,
and I was a little bummed when I found out it was about the guy from Full House.
right. I
I'm
know.
like, really, that dude? Not even John Stamos, like the Uncle Joey, the funny looking one.
Yeah,
Like I was very surprised that the song was about him. Well, apparently, but it's uh,
allegedly.
I grew up in the '90s. Your band has like that '90s appeal of like angsty. That there's some cool female artists now, but I feel like they tone it down on the angst.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that too. Actually, I agree. I mean, there are some, for sure. There are some really great angry like metal bands out there with women singers and that are really kind of like pushing through. And there's some younger bands in Chicago that have women singers that are really kind of coming through with that. But I found that to be true in a lot of not even pop, I mean pop music, forget it, but you know, a lot of sort of bands just don't have that same anger and angst and like aggression that was really coming through in the 90s
Yeah,
and some in the 80s too, so I wanted to bring that out a little bit and remind people that everybody's angry. Like we can, and it's okay to express it and you know bring it out. Like it's fun to be angry.
yeah, in a good way. There's a few bands I'm listening to, and there's a few female-fronted bands that I'm really obsessed with. Two bands. One is called Soft Cold, and the other is called Mama, and they're like newer bands. Like bring
Oh,
more like of that '90s, like a shoegaze style with some
right. I'm writing these down.
yeah,
soft, soft cult.
Soft,
And what's
Soft
the other one?
Cold, Mama.
Yeah. All right.
They're
Thanks.
pretty cool. They're more like so they're bringing in that like more 90s stuff
Mhm.
to the newer generation. But yeah, like because right now if the thing with the angry music right now, it's like sometimes I feel like they're angry but not in a like a real way. And in the '90s, I don't know, it felt like more sincere. Right now it's like, oh, I don't like the anger where they're like, I'm tough, I'm gonna beat you up. I like when you feel like I grew up with like Nirvana, Nine Inch
Yeah.
Nails, like and Smashing Pumpkins, all those bands, Alice in Chains. They had like anger, but they also had other styles, but like it felt more real. So
Yeah.
you're listening to you. I'm like, yeah, they're very influenced by '90s stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how long were you working on this record to the production and everything.
Oh, the production. It actually took us about a year. It, oddly enough, I think from recording to finish, it took about a year and a half. Just because of schedules, I think we recorded it in October of 2024 at Electrical Audio, which is Steve Albini's studio. Was
Rest in
rest
yeah.
in peace. Oh my gosh, right? It was a very sad day in Chicago, and around the world. But so we recorded it there. You know, we recorded it in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Old. Yeah.
yeah. We were like, we have stuff to do this weekend, so we got to get this done. So we were there for like 10 hours. Sanford Parker, who does a lot of recording in and around Chicago, and is in a great band himself, Black Cross Hotel, recorded it for us, and then he and I mixed it. He mixed it. He and I produced the record. He has a small studio called Hypercube Studios that he did. But yeah, just because of our schedules and things, it took about a year or so, year and a half to get it really finished. And then it was sort of I designed the record cover and
I was
not
in the background.
yeah, I got it back there. So it took me a little while. Yes, this is our record cover. And the
Yeah.
inner sleeve, which no one has even seen yet.
Well,
Very
I
exciting.
right now, yeah, it's that a flower?
Yes. Yeah, here's the back. I made a collage. I did a whole installation in my house of flowers and things and photographed them and um, put it all together. So that took me some extra time to do that and, do all the design and everything. And so, yeah, I honestly, it's been about a year and a half.
Yeah. We're looking
Oh,
at
there it is. Yeah.
but it was cool. I noticed that in the background, so I was going to ask you. So yeah, it looks cool. You got you you know why I thought of the Breeders, because remember the last Splash album cover? It
Mhm.
kind of colors. It did it. I don't remember, but what it had, but that cover reminded me of that cover.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a lot. I was also influenced a lot by there was a record label in England in the 80s into the 90s, 4AD,
Oh,
um, that Cocteau Twins and saw all that stuff. And so I was also I've always been a fan of their record art, and they built a lot of things physically and photographed them. So that's why I really wanted to do that, instead of just building it on the computer. And so to me, it has a feeling of that. It's not exactly what theirs was much more abstract, but
no, but it's a cool, and the story about the flowers and everything. So it's a cool album artwork. So you guys recorded that in a day. Question: Was Steve Albini there that day?
he was not in. We recorded in Studio B. He was in the building in Studio A, but he did not come into our session.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that because that it would have been awesome to talk with him and pick on his brain, because he's like recorded some legendary albums.
Yeah, I know. I'm so bummed that like I didn't even see him in the building or anything, but it was such a privilege to be there in the first place. I'm a huge fan of Big Black and Shellac and all the projects that Steve worked on. And so it was just when found out that we had a chance to record there, I was like, yes. And it wasn't any more expensive than recording anywhere else. So it was great.
And I'm guessing you already had rehearsed. You had all the songs written.
Yeah.
You can get that out in a day. I'm talking to bands that done things in like 2 3 days, but one day. That's like how many? Was there a song that took most of the time on that recording session?
What were the hard ones? Uh, well, we did one more song that's not on the album. It's a cover, and it was hard. That was a hard one. Uh, I don't even know if you would know the song. It's called Breakdown, and then by Roland Howard, who used to be in the Birthday Party. I don't know, but that was hard. On the ones that made it to the album, it's such a blur.
Yeah,
I think just as we did Static and Refuse last, And at that time, static was relatively new, so that was hard. Just in terms of all of the pieces going together at the right times. But yeah, I think we had performed a bunch of the songs live many times by the time we recorded, and so we were pretty ready to go. But yeah, I think just a couple of the new ones were a little, we had to do more than one take. We did, well, I think we did more than one take on everything. We're not that good.
Yeah, well, but it's a cool way to record. So when you're writing, these lyrics and the themes, what's your process to when you're writing the lyrics? Like I know every song, like songwriter has a different approach, but how does Megan approach it?
You know, ugh, I tried to keep it very truthful so that when I'm singing it, it it doesn't feel put on by me, right? So sometimes what happens is I'll write a whole song. Surface actually is a great example. I wrote Surface and I was like, yeah, this is great. And then I went and I was practicing it just by myself, like nobody else could make practice that day. So I was working on it all by myself and I'm singing the lyrics and I'm playing along and I finished it and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. This is so terrible." And it was terrible. It was too wordy. It was like bad poetry, bad high school poetry. It was terrible. So I sat down again with it and I just started thinking like, what am I trying to say? What emotion am I trying to get across? And I distilled it down to the bare minimum of getting that across, like what's really at the heart of it all. And now I to me it's one of my favorite songs that we do, because it just has that truth to it. Like it's not only do I feel like I mean obviously I wrote it so I feel like I can say it truthfully, but I think it also kind of rings true in general for more than just me because I really kind of got to the heart of what I needed to say. And I find that that's how I write a lot of our songs, where I kind of write it and I'm like, yeah, it's great. And then I read it and I'm like, oh no, that is not great. And then I kind of go back in and I really focus on what I'm really trying to say. And then I can usually get it across a little better.
Yeah. If only some artists did that. Like great, and they're like, no, no.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because then like I'm like, maybe it is. Oh, maybe it's not. You know, nobody can tell you but you. But I feel like if I can sing it and feel it that and really feel what's truly behind it, and it feels, I guess, authentic to me, like that I would say this and this is what I really feel or would feel about this, then I think it comes across truthfully. But if I feel like I read it or I say it out loud and I'm like, oh God, then
I
it's time
think
to change it.
of when I was in high school and I used to write songs or whatever. And yeah, I showed some to my girlfriend. She's like, you should lock this up. And no one should ever see these things ever again. That's why I became a music critic. Those those who can write them, I'll do album reviews and stuff because we're terrible. Uh, I could be honest with myself, but yeah, but it's a good process that you get and you look at it and maybe was there a time that maybe you wrote something, then you second guessed and you try to do something different there? You're like, no, the first time worked.
Yeah, honestly, all the time. Even now, I go back and I'll go back and forth on songs that are on the album already. Like I can't change them now, and but I'll be like, oh, maybe that should be different. And then a little while later, I come back to it and I'm like, no, no, that's the way it should be. So yeah, absolutely. You know, every day, every day is different.
So are you currently working on new stuff?
Yes, yes. Nothing is finished yet. but yeah, we are. It's just been a long road to get to the record release, so it's kind of hard. I find it hard to focus on both things, like
Oh yeah.
really kind of focusing on getting the record out and getting the show together and all that stuff, and also writing new things. But yeah, we have a new bass player since the album. Um, Anna, who played on the album, who is fantastic, just didn't have the time to continue with the band. So we have a new bass player now, Jesse, who was in a band called Starless, which is a great band here in Chicago. But so she and I have started writing some new stuff, and once we sort of get the record release out of the way, we're really hoping to concentrate on that and have some new stuff this year.
Oh wow, this year. That,
I mean, that's the plan right now.
well, it's not early next year. You can put it next year. But yeah, Chicago is really a besides it's there's a lot of like cool musicians from Chicago. So it's a very like uh growing up I thought more of Seattle, but I'm like, no, there's a lot of stuff in Chicago that I love that's been for the years plus. Like we said at the beginning, Riot Fest. Uh hey, that would be I don't know how you get on Riot Fest, but I'm guessing anybody in Chicago that's like a dream to play that show, right?
Yes, and honestly, I live in the neighborhood where the festival is now, and they always ask for local submissions, neighborhood submissions. So like for the past 3 years, I've been like, "Hey, hey," but now we have an album, so we'll see. We'll see. I think we have to be a little bigger in Chicago before they're really going to ask us. But yeah, you should come. You should come to Riot Fest. It's great. It's the best festival here.
It's in September, just a few days before my birthday. So yeah, I should. And I saw
Have to
that
come.
like there's Blink, I think Green Day and Weezer. I'm like, that's like a '90s dream.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Eh, well, I saw the lineup. The Beach Boys are playing, and, and I'm like, can they still be called boys?
Right? Yeah, I kind of had the same thought, but they always put in something like one year the Village People played. If you look at the lineup this year, Hanson is also playing. So they always kind of put in,
That I'm like Hanson.
yeah, they
Uh,
always sort of put in some funny kind of like silly bands. Corey Feldman played
yeah,
last year, I think.
I have a funny story with Hanson. So the first time I saw their first music video, I actually thought the singer was a girl, and I'm like, oh, she's hey, growing up like she's hot, and then someone told me he's a dude. I'm like, no, like
Like, not with that hair. There's no way.
he looked like a girl, and like
Totally.
like not that everyone with long hair looks like because like I knew Jerry Cantrell and the people they look like they didn't look like girl, but Hanson I don't know he had his hair too nice.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think that was a very easy mistake. I don't think you're the only person that made that mistake.
For 1 year. And then I'm like, oh, he's a dude. I'm like, okay, I didn't know. But yeah, that Bop song, if you really listen to the lyrics, it's very depressing.
Oh, really? I have not really listened to the lyrics.
If you pay attention to it, because you're like, oh, it's a song about Bop, but in that song, he's saying that every day that you get older, like you lose hair, like will your friends care about you? So if you really read the lyrics, it's really I'm like, weren't they like 8 when they wrote this?
Right?
Or 10 years old? I'm telling you, but yeah, it's if you I noticed because there's someone who does like shorts, and she did something where she's like, oh no, this is a fun song, and then she breaks it down like, oh my god, I never thought of it that way. It's a very depressing song.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna listen to it after we're done here.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, oh my god, it was depressing.
Right? Like we should have been worried about these kids all along.
Just because it was so upbeat that you couldn't find out, and that's another beauty from the '90s. You could write a very syrupy pop track talking about the darkest things, and it would get played on the radio. Like I remember when that Third Eye Blind song about doing crystal meth was in a top. I'm like, does anyone knows that this is about doing drugs?
Right, right. You're like, should this be on the radio? This seems like a bit.
Yeah, there were a lot of, but since they made it like very catchy, you wouldn't know. Uh, so that's another thing that I love about like the poppier side, the pop music from the '90s, because I thought it was like smart pop music.
Yeah, it was different. It was different for sure. And yeah, it did seem to be about a lot of things seem to be about sort of deeper subjects than just
Yeah,
whatever pop music
yeah,
is about now.
yeah. So I know you guys are playing some shows. So where can people see Burndy?
People can see Burndy in Chicago on May 3rd. We are playing our record release show at Cole's Bar. If you are in Chicago, you know where it is. They're also online, so you can find them. But we're playing that show with Mark Solitroff and Burned and Buried, and it's all of our record release shows. So it's a triple record release show. So
That's
that should be fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like a cool time. And also, you guys are putting out this record independently. So I'll put the link from I feel, Bandcamp, right?
Bandcamp. Yep, you can find us on Bandcamp. If you want to follow us on Instagram, we're there too. We have a couple early live videos up on YouTube. So a little bit of a presence there and a little presence on Facebook too, just for events, as we do. But yeah.
So yeah, so I'll post this before the record show so people will know. Like if you're in Chicago, go check this. All
Yeah.
3 bands playing. That sounds like a fun time. Maybe I'll let know my friend. Maybe she'll see if she's interested in going since she lives in Chicago.
I know. Tell her to come by. And I look forward to meeting you at Riot Fest this year.
Hopefully, I'll tell my girlfriend like, "Hey, we should go to Chicago. I've been meaning to go to Chicago." She doesn't like this music, so she'll be like, "You go." That you like. So, Megan, I've had fun chatting with you about Burndy, music, '90s, and everything. So, before I let you go, anything you like to say to maybe future fans of Burndy,
Oh my gosh.
or maybe your to people, to anyone who
People
watches?
in general.
Yeah.
No, I can't think of anything really clever to say. I think just like, check us out. Hopefully there's something in our music that appeals to you, and I don't know. Go out and start your own weird band if it doesn't. Like, go do something weird.
Yeah. You never know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Megan, thank you for joining me from Chicago here to Puerto Rico. So I'll let you go now. So because you're going to the band practice, so you're ready for that show.
Yes, we're practicing hard.
Yeah. So until next time, couchers, this Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.